In mythologies, Ronald Barthes talked about what is myth and how myth can be used as framework to analyze messages we came across in life. Why we want to use myth as a framework? Because myth is a way to deliver messages where social usage has been added to the pure materials. Since mythical speech can come from many sources, for example, speaking languages, billboard sign, pictures, music, performance, etc., means we can analyze pretty much everything to figure out the true or latent messages inside the myth. So, to understand how myth works, one must first understand the component of myth. The components are 1. Signifier, 2. Signify, and 3. The sign. Take here's Rose example where Rose is the signifier. Passion or love is what it signified, and the eternal fuse of the two ideas is the sign. There are two main perspectives to understand two different yet continuous chains of myth. Semiology for the first chain and Freud for the second chain. To ease things up, Barthes gives different names for each component that help clarify the concept. For semiology system or a language system, signifier is called meaning. Signified, he called it concept, while sign, he used to call it sign, which based on relationship between signifier and the signified. For meta-language system, or what he also called the myth itself, that based on the Freud ideology, signified he called it form, while signified he called it concept because it's intentional function, and sign he called it signification. So let's now talk about the chains of myth. Both of the chains have the signifier, the signified, and the sign. The first chain, which is the linguistic system, that consists of the object, the concept, and the sign, while the second one, which is the myth itself, it has the form, the concept, and signification, both in the same order. What connecting both of the links together is that the sign of the first chain is actually become the signifier of the second chain. The duality of form and sign can create interesting conversation. This is because the sign part of it is very full with the preconceived ideas such as knowledge, past, memory, fact about the object, while the signifier, which is the form, is required to be like very empty in order to get processed in the second chain of the myth. So what's going on in this process is that all the history and all the past from the first chain, which is conceived in the sign area, is evaporate and become empty, and it become the finally once again empty casing process in the myth chain. After the form, we need to talk about the signify or the concept. It is different with form since it is not abstract but intentional. They are also opposite in terms of ratio quantity, since generally one concept could have multiple forms to represent it. Concept will devour the emptiness of form and impose social function of current time into it. Concept is based on historical reference. It is the drive that produced the myth. Because of the close relation between concept and history, which constantly changeable, mythical concept could diminish over time or even disappear. To prevent this, Barthes introduced the idea of neologism, where the word will stay, but the meaning can be changed over time, just like the myth itself. Now that we are good with the terminologies and the frameworks of myth, let's take a look at this advertisement and try to decode what the message is, myth. So let's start with the signifier of the first chain. We're both saying alcohol that just poured from the bottle into the martini glass. And that's the literal meaning of the advertisement. Then there's the text that supposedly sums it up. Absolute fantasy. But what does it actually signify? The act of transferring the fluid from the bottle, which is a classic phallic symbol, to chalice, which is another classic feminine symbol, definitely suggesting something other than just sipping alcoholic drink. So, it's about sex after intercourse. As for the text itself, it signified the impossibility for it, since A, the bottle is supposedly not real because it's a picture inside a picture, and the vodka, it actually tastes really horrible, so no one would drink it neat without any mixer. So, the sign for the first chain is the symbolism of the intercourse for advertisement. This relationship is made considering the Sky Vodka tendency to always use sex as a part of their advertising, whether it's subtle or flat out way too racy. It is also from my understanding of the symbolism that have been widely used in advertising nowadays. So the next thing we need to do is transform the sign from the first chain into the form of the second chain, because they basically one of the same. But to make the sign into the form, we need to first remove all the history and ideas and all the baggage that we have from the first chain and make it simply just the use of the sex in advertising. We forget about how it symbolized, like the history of the company, the history of the symbol and everything on it. To turn the form into the concept, we need to infuse it with the current circumstances regarding the form, which is the use of the sex in advertising. So the constant exposure of sex symbolism give hints about the condition of society, not just where sex is acceptable and even commercialized, but also the strong gender bias and support of this inequality between genders. Because like in this picture, the female, as always, is pictured as pretty little thing, that passive, and can only wait to be filled by the man, which is the martini glass that waiting to get filled by the alcohol. And the man, as always, is this sturdy, very strong, very manly, that has the ability to provide, which is the bottle that can pour the alcohol and satisfy the glass. And the signification of this chain is the immortalization of the society perspective toward genders and their attitude towards sex, that although they don't want to say it, it actually there.